I kept thinking about what would be like a beneficial thing to talk about or way to speak that would be helpful for people. Um, it just feels like a lot of energy. So I think I just have to express how it is here now or how it's seen because I think it's becoming harder to, unless someone mentions it first and then I'm brought back to how it felt at that time, I could remember more easily. But otherwise, it's so this that it takes a lot of effort to try and think back to how it used to be. And the body just doesn't seem to want to do that as much, you know? There's a lot of things that the body is clear about now. Like it's not shy in how it feels anymore. There's less like second guessing oneself in the old way because it's just that. I guess one nice thing is like I do think back sometimes about why certain decisions were made in the past. And underlying it, it was a lot of loneliness and fear of missing out, fear of not being good enough, fear of not having something to say, fear of not having experiences, fear of being irrelevant to my friends, not being interesting to a partner, not being enough to measure up to someone's desire of me. Does that make sense? Like it definitely felt like all of those things were really, really important for me to get what I wanted. And what I wanted was a partner. I think that was a large part of a lot of decisions that were made. So now that that's not important anymore, it's so much clearer how much suffering and burden that actually was, how much confusion, how much decisions that were made that were traumatic, harmful, detrimental. And it's not to blame myself for the past. Like I can just see how deep the loneliness actually was, how deep the longing to fit in really was. Was it fit in? I feel like it was even just more my perception of myself, how I needed to be in order to not feel this immense discomfort inside. So along with this, you do actually see how much the sexual energy also is completely intertwined with the wanting of this relationship that society and everyone else deems normal. how much of that plays into fantasizing and hoping and dreaming, and it intensifies the sexual energy like crazy to a degree that you can't know that that's happening. It's now that I look back, it's almost like a possession that's happening. Like you have absolutely no control. Like it's that intense. But now that, all of those dreams are just seen as dreams and irrelevant now and not important, the sexual energy is very biological. You rarely think about it. It just seems hormonal. And it's really hard to actually fantasize. That doesn't really happen. So you can't amplify it in that way. It's not out of control. Um, you can't juice it in that way. And it's such a relief. It's such a unburdening. It's so clear. And when I say those things, sometimes I'm aware of how the person will interpret that, thinking that sexual energy is bad, but that's not what I mean. There wasn't a repression of it. There was an undoing of the repression and the shaming and the badness that society kind of puts around that stuff, seen more neutrally. Um, and only then is it able to fully be seen for what it is. And it diminishes like everything else. Not that I expected it, but that seems to be what happened with the collapse of everything else. And that's what happens with all energy. The loneliness, the neediness, the wanting, the desire, the hope. It's really fully seen. It's fully met. And there could kind of be this questioning of, is this worth it? Is this worth the burden that I could feel energetically? This never being settled, never being here. And sometimes that questioning can shift something, but ultimately you do see you have no control in energy, whether it goes, whether it stays, whether it comes up again. And you see it a million times over and over that you have no control. And that's also the beauty of this. When you see it over and over like that, um, yeah, that definitely shows the body. It's not worth fighting. Actually, you can't fight it. You can't win. So for the example with like friends and stuff, it was pretty concerning in different ways that I didn't want to see people, but the need for it was just going. I wasn't getting anything out of it. I wasn't getting anything out of the stories. I didn't have stories to tell. And even if I did, I couldn't express it because it just wouldn't be understood. So nothing would really be said. It really felt unnecessary. And that became clearer and clearer. And I remember that that's in a way, that's what I wanted long time ago. I wanted to feel okay by myself and not have that constant nagging feeling of you should call this person, you should do this, you should meet up with more people, you should. So you definitely grieve it in different ways too, because for so long, perhaps you thought that that was gonna be your dream life somehow. That's why there's that hope there or that projection there. Yeah, but when it goes deeper and deeper, you're like, wow, what a relief. How nice, how free, how clear. No more of that clutter. The mind settles down. It really does, because that need and longing and hope is just gone. It's gone from the system. And then thoughts become a lot more clear. It's not owned. I don't know what it is, but it's used functionally. It's not thought about. It's not a big deal. It doesn't even matter if there's a storm. I don't even know what a storm is. It's not registered. It's not like a thing that's important anymore. It's not a marker of anything. And so when you kind of hear these things from the past of like you're trying to silence the mind or you shouldn't have so much thoughts, or there's some belief like that. Like it should be more quiet. It's like it's so obvious that that has nothing to do with this whatsoever. That's just another way of controlling, trying to manipulate. And yeah, you see just how energetic it actually is. Something internal just softens and everything actually kind of continues the same way. Things definitely fell away, but the body itself, sometimes I feel like nothing actually changed except that there was this energy that was owning everything. And I couldn't help it. It was automatic. And it created so much confusion and meaning and tightness around a lot of things. So in a way, that's like the main thing that has disappeared. And then everything else is it's like it has really always been like this. It was just the perception here that made it seem otherwise, made it made things really important and solidified that I know why this happened. I know why this didn't happen. It's my fault. It's not my fault. It's their fault. It's this happened because of that happened. And it's like you think that you know. The story is very convincing. The story feels real. So when things happen now, whether it be so-called good or bad, there's no meaning really to it. It's just, it is what it is. It says nothing about me. Uh, I don't know really what to make of it. Sometimes there can be thoughts of like, it's a good thing that that happened because I learned this. But then it goes, I don't know if that's true. I can't like, yes, that's truth. When bad things happen, I always learn from it and that Like it's not solid anymore. And then you think you know why the bad thing happened. So then you're like, oh, okay, in order to prevent it in the future, I have to do this or think like this or believe this. And yet, even from the beginning, you still didn't know what happened, why it happened that way. The factors and conditions that were there were so beyond your perception and your understanding and your ability to grasp what is happening. So you're just kind of going along this imaginary road, believing that that is actually what is happening. But yeah, it's really nice when you go through those loops because it really is like, is that true? Is that even true? Then it's kind of believed and you might go for it, believing that, but then you see like, wait, that wasn't true. It's not really that way. And that's I think that's part of the energetic freedom. You can't land anywhere. You can't um yeah, you can't make anything concrete and it really does free up something in the body and you can really sense that there is like a free flow of energy that was not like that before. You're welcome to raise your hand if you'd like to interact.